See that blimp right there? I'm supposed to be on it. Right now. Getting a ride on it is nearly impossible, and it's one of the most exclusive experiences in the aviation world. I was about to get the experience of a lifetime, but am I going to miss it? I was preparing for the experience of a lifetime, but the person in charge has told me that my name isn't on the list. It's the last day of AirVenture, I have a busy schedule at home the next day, and my window of opportunity is closing rapidly. I might just have to walk away from this once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. Welcome back to AeroExploration. My name is Jim, and today we're going to talk about the possibility of flying on the Goodyear Blimp and the emotional roller coaster that possibility put me through in the last day of AirVenture. So let me go back to the beginning of all of this and explain how I even got here in the first place. Now, you can't just buy a ticket to fly on the Goodyear Blimp, and a ride on the Goodyear Blimp is invitation only, an experience so exclusive that I consider as something that wasn't even on my radar. I wouldn't have even known where to begin to get a ride on the Goodyear Blimp. So this whole adventure starts with a simple email request to Goodyear to interview one of their pilots for the 100th anniversary of the Goodyear Blimp. They were going to have 2 airships at Oshkosh this year, and I thought maybe it'd be a cool opportunity to interview one of their pilots to talk about 100 years of the blimp. Now, those of you not familiar with AirVenture in Oshkosh, this is the biggest air show on the planet. It is a week of pure sensory overload. It's got roar of jets, it's got the smell of aviation fuel, and thousands of people and thousands of incredible aircraft everywhere that you look. Right in the middle of all that, Goodyear was bringing 2 airships this year to highlight that 100 years. So after I've made contact with Goodyear, we are able to arrange an interview with one of their pilots at AirVenture. It was a really exciting opportunity, but then I scrolled further down, and as I read the rest of the confirmation details, right there at the bottom of the email was an unexpected invitation. Goodyear was providing some media flights, and they asked if I wanted a ride. Of course I wanted a ride. Who wouldn't want to ride on the Goodyear Blimp? It is an incredible opportunity reserved for not a lot of people. I would later learn that a ride on the Goodyear Blimp is typically reserved for members of the media, corporate sponsors, and individuals who win a ride through charitable donations and raffles. So going into AirVenture, I was incredibly excited for this opportunity. I talked about it nearly every day with the other members of the podcast, and I was so pumped to be able to go on the Goodyear Blimp. Or so I thought. Here's where things start to break down a little bit. As you can imagine, this is a massive event. We had arranged for 15 interviews over the course of the air show, and I'm doing a lot of communicating between a lot of different representatives to try to make sure that everything runs smoothly for us. During that process and emailing with Goodyear, we had figured out a possible time that I would be able to ride on the blimp. And in doing that, I got a confirmation email asking if a certain date and time would work. So, to set the stage, it is Wednesday night. We're getting ready for the night air show, which is a huge draw of people, and I hit send on my email confirming what I thought was going to be my spot for that flight. Unfortunately, unbeknownst to me, good luck finding any cell service or Wi-Fi at that point in the show. So as we're about to watch the night air show and I send my formal confirmation, I type it out, I hit send, and I put my phone away, assuming everything is taken care of. What I didn't know is the message would be sitting in my drafts and unable to break through the digital wall of the air show. In fact, the Goodyear Blimp was a part of that air show. I watched it fly overhead. I watched it capture the beautiful images that it did of the show itself with the drones and the pyrotechnics. And unbeknownst to me, there the email sat. So for the next few days of the air show, every time I saw the blimp, I'd get a little bit more excited, knowing that I'm getting closer and closer to my opportunity to fly aboard. I felt a surge of excitement, and I never really thought anything more that email wouldn't send. So we fast forward to Sunday morning. It's the day of the flight. I woke up. I was excited. I've got some nervous energy going on. And I realized at that point, I don't have a final confirmation. So on the agenda for the last day of AirVenture is I'm just going to go get some B-roll. I'm going to probably hang out a lot at the EAA museum. One, it's air conditioned, but two, there's some historical stuff that I want to get some B-roll of to tell some stories. And then we're going to go and meet with a U2 pilot. We're going to get an interview with him. And then the final act of the day, unless something weird happens, is the ride in the Goodyear Blimp. So that is super, super exciting. I'm really pumped to get on the Goodyear Blimp. It's a pretty unique opportunity. There was no detailed instructions, just my original invite, a rough idea where I was supposed to go, and the time that was sent to me sometime on Wednesday that I thought I confirmed. And I made my way to the airport where I would be just in Oshkosh by myself for the final day, capturing some video and getting ready for my ride on the blimp. And at some point during that time, it started to really hit me that this might not happen. All right, so I'm leaving the AirVenture grounds for the last time this week, heading over to the museum for hopefully the Goodyear ride. However, the AirVenture cell phone service did me dirty on Wednesday, and my confirmation email I don't think sent. So we're gonna find out together if I still have a spot or not. I'm a little anxious, but nothing we can do. We'll just see what happens. There's an email back and forth with me and the Goodyear folks. A couple of time changes, but they had asked me if a certain time worked, and I thought I had responded back, and I see it this morning as a email that didn't send. I tried to send it Wednesday night when we were at the air show, so that may be the situation. So I don't know. I guess we'll see what happens. I'm a little anxious to see what they're going to say. The best I can do is try at this point and hope that either my spot was still secured or they have another shot this afternoon. So gonna hop on the bus and find out. Thank you.
Can't be clean. The room should be organized. The room should be organized. There's no reason why it shouldn't be organized.
Thank you.
Okay, distance-wise, not that far, but this is probably going to feel like the longest walk I've taken during the entire week. That was an incredibly long walk. It felt like it took forever, and with every step, the doubt of whether I was on that list would get louder and louder. What if I get all the way over there and they have no idea who I am? Well, that's exactly what happened. I need to figure out if I'm on for 2:30 or not.
Okay.
Is there a way to find out?
Yeah.
Okay.
Let's see.
Jenna sent me an email, and I thought it sent to confirm, but I sent it during the Wednesday night air show, and it sent, or it didn't send, it looks like, so.
Oh, okay. Who do we have?
Jim Schilling.
And you are with?
Flying Midwest.
You can probably gauge by my reaction, my initial thought, but let me work through some others.
Okay.
You were supposed to go at
2:30?
You arrive at 2. Okay. Let me run through some thoughts. Please
Okay.
stick around.
I will stick
You
around.
don't want to go anywhere.
Okay. I got nothing
We
time.
will work through every possible permutation of how to. We never want to send anybody away unhappy. We'll watch some things roll in here.
All right. Now we'll see what happens.
No justice. I'm just like,
We'll find the right way. Just enjoy it.
Okay.
Enjoy the moment.
Appreciate it.
Right?
So as they looked over the list, it became really apparent to me really quickly, my name's not on that list. The Midwest nice in me was prepared to just say, thanks so much for the opportunity. I completely understand. I'm going to head home now. But the people with Goodyear were so incredible. and it said, hang on a second. We don't like people to walk away unhappy. Let me see what I can do. So to Dan from Goodyear, oh my goodness, the amount of work you did in the background to try to make this happen when I had an email that just failed to go through was just incredible. And he wasn't wrong, that he was going to do what he had to do to make sure that no one walked away unhappy. So even then, when he told me that he was going to work on some things, I still felt a little gut punch, and I was a little embarrassed and a little heartbroken at the same time, and just trying to, salvage a situation that I thought that I might just sit here still and not have a resolution that's going to be riding in the blimp, and I'm going to just have to head home without this opportunity. But I stuck it out, and the staff remained incredibly nice and understanding. After a while of waiting, he would come back to me and tell me that he had found me a spot and gave me a time window. It was several hours from now. So I went and looked at what this would do for getting me back home. I had an obligation the next morning, and the time that they'd give me would not put me back home until well after 1 o'clock in the morning. And I was still not really sure how this was going to work. As the time passed, I knew that another problem was starting to brew. Not in the sky above me here, but on my phone's weather app. The radar was showing some nasty line of storm starting to build, and I knew it was going to come across my path as I drove home, no matter what time that would be. If I left right now, I would likely beat the storms. I would get home before those storms hit home. If I waited, I would likely be driving through those storms in some part. So I went back up to Dan. I was ready to tell him, I think it's time that I make the decision to cut my losses and head home, make sure I can get home before the storms, and make sure that I'm properly prepared and rested for the next day. And even then, Dan told me, hang on a second, I might have another option for you. And he was able to bump me up to an earlier flight that would still probably put me in the path of the storms, but not quite as bad. I would probably get close to home, if not home, before hitting the weather. So I was looking at the weather app one more time. I was weighing my options, and I thought that this was still going to maybe be cutting it close. I might have to leave. I was getting ready to make that call, and I got a text from my wife. And it said, you really want to do this. I think you should stay. And to have that reassurance of we would figure it out and to just stay, you want to do this. And that support from home was absolutely incredible and made the decision a heck of a lot easier. So the folks at Goodyear came through once again. I got that earlier evening flight, and they briefed me. We were getting ready to go, and this was going to be the opportunity of a lifetime. So let me tell you a little bit about the flight itself and what it's like to fly on the Goodyear Blimp. Well, first of all, boarding the blimp isn't like anything else. It's not like you get in a line and you just all hop onto the blimp at once. The engines are still running on the ground, and the airship is still pretty buoyant. So it's connected to its mast, kind of like a dog leash, for lack of better terms. And there's a policy of one person gets off, one person gets on. So it's kind of a back and forth of people exiting the blimp and then the next person getting on, so that they continue to keep their weights in balance. The other cool thing is once you get inside the gondola, the world disappears a little bit. The one cool thing is as you get into the gondola, they mention to you that don't worry about what seat you get. Every seat's an aisle seat. Every seat's a window seat. So we just picked a seat. So as you get inside the gondola of the blimp, it's surprisingly calm, and it's a very simple cabin. It's got these massive panoramic windows and the greatest view you could possibly imagine. There's no fancy entertainment system because the view is everything. So we got situated. I was able to watch the ground crew do their choreography of movements on the ground as we got ready. So as we got ready to take off and leave the ground, you didn't feel that lurching forward acceleration that you might experience in an airplane or helicopter. We just floated. The ground crew would release the lines. We watched them wave us away, give us some different hand signals as we went, and we were just peacefully up in the air. And unlike anything I've experienced in flying general aviation, what you might normally experience as turbulence or bumps in the air felt more like just riding on gentle waves on a lake. It is by far the most peaceful feeling that I've had on a flight ever. And I'd like to think I'm a decent pilot. Here's the most surreal part of this whole flight. It's the last day of AirVenture, and I have been on those grounds for a week just running around in the hustle and bustle of it all and just taking all of it in. But this, it wasn't just quiet in the aircraft, it was quiet on the grounds. It's Sunday evening, people were packing up. A lot of the airplanes that were camping, a lot of the people in the campgrounds that were camping, they were all gone. And it was just a quiet expanse of what just looked like a normal airport. So I was able to take in some really extraordinary views of the Oshkosh grounds, not in its height of excitement and hustle and bustle, but just starting to relax back into the peace of what happens before and after this massive event. Another thing from a pilot perspective that I was interested in is what's happening up with the pilots. They have this whole array of digital displays that give them all kinds of aircraft engine information, information about the blimp itself, and then the typical flight instruments that you would expect as a pilot flying in an aircraft. But the other thing I noticed is that the pilot maneuvering the aircraft and working the flight controls, they were having to make some pretty drastic full-scale deflections, as I would call it, with the controls itself to maintain that aircraft in its steady orbit around the AirVenture grounds. And I was thinking back to my interview with one of their pilots where he had talked about how this thing is like a huge sailboat, and if the wind catches it, it will really push you around. So you are constantly working the controls to make sure that you are able to do what you want to do with the aircraft or the airship itself. This is an aircraft that you really have to fly by feel. And even though there's all these massive control inputs, the pilot is able to take this massive airship and was controlling with some pretty incredible precision. Every movement was so smooth, from any turn that we got into to the climbs and the descents of the aircraft. This moment, these views, the feeling of being in the blimp itself, made every bit of that wait and that anticipation worth it. You know, it's funny. All the chaos, all the stress that I had just been going through to get on the flight itself actually made the experience even more special. It would have been a calm and amazing flight in and of itself, but at this point, this wasn't just a passive ride that I was going to get. This became a challenge and something I had to overcome. From the despair of being told no that I wasn't on the list, to watching the weather and being prepared to make a really hard decision to walk away from all this, to be able to finally get the final payoff, that serene and weightless float through the sky, everything was so much sweeter. It kind of served as a reminder that some of the most rewarding things in life and in aviation don't always come so easily. And to think that I almost walked away from this experience of a lifetime is kind of unimaginable now. And I'm so glad that I stuck around and that I had the support back at home to be able to stick around and take on this amazing opportunity. Oh wow, what a way to end the AirVenture. Lost for words. That was incredible to go up in the blimp, circle around the grounds, watch people leave for the week. It was really something. And Jerry, one of the pilots, described in his interview that it's like riding on a cloud or like a magic carpet ride, and he's not wrong. All right, as Goodyear celebrates 100 years of service with the airships, I celebrate probably one of the best AirVentures I've ever had. Huge thank you to everyone at Goodyear for making this happen. Despite the snags that we had, the crew there has just been phenomenal to coordinate with this afternoon, and they've just bent over backwards. I cannot begin to thank them enough for their hospitality. So thank you, Goodyear. This is something I'm not going to soon forget. Absolutely incredible. That's going to do it for this video. Thank you so much for watching. And if you like what I'm doing here, go ahead and subscribe and like the video, and we will see you on the next one.